Hey, just wanted to make a quick video on my Cordobes engineer boots. Cordobes is a small Mexican brand, and they're a great customizable boot maker, and they're sweet people. They're passionate. They love what they do, and they're determined to make sure their customers happy. They've been very, very cool and generous with me. So I'm gonna do this quickly because I don't want to ramble too much. I want to go pros and cons of what you can expect from Cordobes as a boot maker, and then what you should maybe decide to go elsewhere on. That they do an incredible job. They're very good at what they do, and they're not very good at what they don't do. If that makes any sense. Real quick, this was my first engineer boot that I ever had like customized and made to my specs, and I'm very happy with them. They're far from perfect, and I had a bit of a journey with them. I didn't like this sort of wider buckle, so I asked them to switch out the buckles to something more narrow. They went to somewhere local in Mexico, and they got a buckle that was garbage. And but the first time I put it on, it snapped, and they could not have been nicer in taking responsibility for that mistake. Which, like, a lesser brand or a lesser person would go, "Hey, that's your fault. You wanted us to use a different kind of buckle." They're like, "No, no, no, this is our mistake. We should have tested it." So they took care of me. They were very, very kind. So I was left with just a lot of love for the brand. They seem like good people, and it's not just like they're not just trying to be good at business people. I think they really love what they do, and they're just lovely guys. There's something. Sometimes you connect with someone, even if it's just over Instagram or email, and you're like, "You're a good person. You're just very cool," and so I'm proud to support them. This leather, this is from Lafarque. It's a combination tan leather, and it is the same leather that they use for Dale's Leatherworks, Air Surfer LV. He got a service boot from them from Cordobes, and that is by far just the nicest boot I've ever seen from Cordobes. It's just a perfect design. It looks beautiful. I wonder how it's holding up. But so I just saw that boot. I'm like, I want that leather. That leather looks awesome. They're like, okay, that's not normally what we offer, but we have it, so no problem. Great. Then I said they didn't even have an option on their website for a half sole, but I saw somewhere that they offered a half sole. I was like, I'll go half sole, right? It's an engineer boot. Let's do half sole. I think I didn't realize how rugged these are, but they're fun. I went with a natural edge finish. Turns out, the shading just is all over the place. You have a darker shading here and a lighter shading here because of the leather. So if I do it over again, I would just go with a dark edge finish. I went with stitch down, double row stitch down construction. Now, I would say, and we get into this in the cons portion of this video, but they don't shine with stitching. Their stitching is decent. It's certainly not perfect. These aren't Vibergs, far from it. Okay. I should also say they're not really engineer boots in a way that a lot of like boot enthusiasts have come to. Engineer boots have gone in a very, very specific direction. Very, very sleek, very anatomically interesting. They've gone very far from sort of your rugged motorcycle engineer boot. They've become kind of the most sophisticated version of boots. These are not those. These are essentially like roper boots. They're really roper boots with buckles. If you really had to get into it. Now, the leathers that they use are great. I think they're a wonderful, wonderful option if you want to customize a lot of your boot. They're just a great option. If I had to do it over again, I would just do a standard Goodyear welt. I would not do, or I forget if that's an option. I think it is. They sent me a picture of this before, and they're like, "Sorry, we messed that up. No problem." That's okay. But again, they got out in front of it, and they're just like, "Look, that's not a big deal." I love these guys. These boots aren't perfectly finished. Like that kind of goes out a little bit. This this cuts in there. This has nails here, no nails here. This boot has a bunch of nails here. Yeah, let me just make sure I cover the pros before we get into some of the cons. The pros are like they're infinitely customizable. They also offer the veg tan, just a naked veg tan leather. You get any rough out leather. If they don't have it, just ask them. You could get a leather sole. There's a bunch of other. There's like the retire tread, tire tread option. I personally wouldn't go for that. From what I've seen, I don't really love that option. I would go either this half sole or a more even more rugged lug sole if they have one. I believe they do, or just a leather outsole. I asked them for extra arch support. They added a bunch more leather in there, no extra charge. Like there's so much leather in these boots: leather outsole, midsole, insole. I got a soft, unstructured toe for both of these. Yeah, I would not change the buckles. I would just use whatever buckles these standard wider buckles here. Now the cons, their stitching is not perfect. Their sizing recommendation for me didn't quite work out. There's just way too much. The shafts are super wide, super, super wide. Now, obviously, you don't want the shaft to like totally hug your foot because then the passer is going to be too narrow. They'll be difficult to put on and difficult to take off. These are almost a little too easy to put on and take off. They feel relatively comfortable, but yeah, this leather definitely just bunches quite a bit around the shaft. I'm on the smallest hole. Jesus. And yeah, they're a roper boot with buckles. They really are that. If you're wanting like a really beautiful, sophisticated engineer boot, I would say, wait till like the White's boots. What's that? The Checkle or the Cycle or whatever that's called. They're cheaper. There's the Nomad, which is the nicer one. Their cheaper one, like wait till they've got one of the 20% off sales and go through like Baker's, and you'll spend $500 on like a pretty relatively customized engineer boot. Save a bit more money and spend $700 on a Wesco Mr. Lou or something. And wait time's long. This is a boot if you want it quicker. If you want all those customizable options, but you want to stay below $450, and sometimes Cordobes does run 10% off sales, so they'll be closer to 400. When I got these were 10% off, and they were still had the lower prices. They were closer to 350, which is a different price point, different value. Now they're closer to 430, I believe. Still great value, but they're getting close to a White's Nomad. Or you could get a black Chrome Excel, the White's boot that they did. There's like a collaboration with some motorcycle company or some guy. That's like a White's engineer boot made of black Chrome Excel for you get it for closer to 500. And I believe those are unstructured toe. That's very cool, So these are coming close to that price point, but they're great people to work with. They're infinitely kind. Personally, I would go with a Goodyear welt. And then I would really, really stay on top of them about sizing. The only other thing, I think, yeah, there's a whole lot of leather in the shaft. It makes for a comfortable boot, but certainly not a slick engineer boot. So you could almost argue that they're wasting a little bit of leather. Yeah, I think they could work on their patterns, obviously, while still maintaining, remaining true to who they are. They're not going to become Wesco. They're not Y2. They're not Zeros. They're not John Lofgren. They are a Mexican-made, made by hand in a small workshop boot. So, there's a balance of, demanding the most from them, but also understanding who they are and what you should expect. You should not expect a perfectly stitched boot. You should not expect a perfectly finished boot. Expect a rugged, handmade boot that is hopefully fun, made to your exact, customization. This leather piping, the top here, beautifully, what do you call that? Rolled edge. This brown sort of chocolate rough out is a beautiful leather. Yeah, their outsoles. You could probably spend a bit more money and get Vibrams from them. I'm not sure, but this is what they do best. Just a rugged. This is slightly waxed. Just a rugged engineer boot. I mean, look at that. That's incredible. That's a beautiful boot. Absolutely beautiful boot. But it's only beautiful if you accept it for what it is, not if you want it to be something it's not. Yeah, look at that. As you can tell, I'm just being kind of rough with these. This is not their standard leather that they offer as well. So take everything with a grain of salt. But it's a great boot. Far from perfect, but maybe that's okay, right? Anyway, love the Cordobes guys. They're so sweet, and they're well worth your support. So check them out, and just know what you're getting into, and stay on top of all the details, and make sure you get your sizing right. All right, God love you. Thanks for watching.